Welcome to Shonia Studio. In this playlist you can watch crime stories from all over the world, where apart from gaining knowledge about crime stories in other parts of the world, it can also provide knowledge about, for example, the culture and habits of the people in that country. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel if you like our video. Thank you. Yes, today we will go to the city of Fortaleza in Brazil, which has a population of almost 3 million people according to the 2023 census, which is popular for its beaches with red cliffs and coconut trees. I introduced you to a handsome man who works as a tour guide, and also worked as the lifeguard's name is de Leon Vilho, born in 9 and very well liked by many friends, who are super friendly and have a hobby of spreading charm. Maybe that's one of his attractions, so that many people want to be his clients to travel to his parents' Fortaleza area in the city of São Paulo, and since at the age of 16, he has moved away from his family. He has not graduated from high school, but he can earn a lot of money, especially if there are foreign tourists who come. He will definitely be accompanied 24 hours, not only for traveling but also for other trips in bed. In February 2017, de Leon has a romance with a woman named Evelinda Iguatu, who is a friend of his church. Evelinda is very calm, caring and affectionate. This is what de Leon really likes about this girl, and for almost 2 months they have been dating, always going everywhere together. Evelinda knows her lover's profession and is not too controlling or possessive. And being relaxed in a relationship of mutual trust, it's really cool. It's not uncomfortable and it's not overly restrictive. Apart from the fact that de Leon is good at capturing hearts, he really trusts the man. 2.5 months into their relationship, Evelinda proposed, which was immediately accepted, and their wedding was held at the end of April 2017 at Leon. Aged 27 and Evelinda, 24, they then rented a house as a place to stay, even though Evelinda's parents' residence is not too far from there. Evelinda's mother, Acacia, aged 54, is the principal of one of the elementary schools in Fortaleza. She often stops by to visit her daughter, just to say hello or bring food. Acacia, quiet and known as a generous person. Coincidentally, Evelinda also works as a kindergarten teacher, imitating her mother's profession, so they often discuss everything. Because they are so close that after her daughter got married, it felt more lonely even though her father was at home. That's why now she comes to visit almost every day, even though she's only there. Even when Evelinda was teaching, Leon kept dropping by. Acacia knew that her son-in-law works as a tour guide. Yesterday, many people also said that de Leon likes serving his guests at hotels, so she is often advised that if you do the right job, be a guide, just guide, don't serve tourists. Girl in bed, now that you are married, you have to be loyal, be careful of illnesses and protect your household. Of course the man will obey and accept all advice well without wanting to argue in the slightest. He really loves his wife and respects his 2 in-laws. He will definitely change into a better person. In fact, in June 2017, while she was at school, Evelinda received a call from her father who told her to come home immediately because something terrible had happened. The father caught his wife and son-in-law having sex at Evelinda's house even though it was afternoon, which was quite surprising because all this time Acacia had been a role model for her daughter. She was known to be strong in worship and active in religious and social activities. This even made her father demand a divorce, but Acacia apologized for her actions and finally reconciled, while de Leon was also confused about how to tell his wife. He said that his mother-in-law often stopped by to give him lots of advice. Over time, Acacia was the one who seduced and asked first. Even the woman was the one who was determined to kiss de Leon's lips first, and forced him to have sex, even though the man had refused. he honestly said that he had served his mother-in-law twice. For almost a week Evelinda didn't come home. She wanted to give punishment to her husband, De Leon. He admitted he was wrong and couldn't do anything. He apologized and tried to pick up his wife to go home, but was always rejected. He still maintained that Acacia was the one who started it, not the one who was teasing. That's why when Evelinda took off his clothes and said she wanted to calm down, I don't know how long De Leon will immediately ask for a divorce. He's lazy about the relationship. If he really wants to punish, then punish her too. His mother was the one who was itchy first. Don't corner herself as if she were the most guilty. He's already apologized and wants to start everything from zero again. Give him a chance to improve himself. But if she really doesn't want to, it's better to just separate. Without further ado, his wife agreed and the divorce papers were easily issued officially, and the two of them became single again in September 2017. It seems that Evelinda is the type of woman who finds it difficult to forgive anyone who makes a mistake to her. She really closed her heart after De Leon's actions. After divorcing, he met a widow named Rachel in May 2018, whose hobby was swimming and sunbathing on the beach. There are lots of people who like her, and she also makes a lot of money in the women's underwear business, and of course her hobby is sports. When introduced to Rachel's parents, it seems that Mrs. Jacinta doesn't approve of the man, looks down on De Leon, thinks that working as a tour guide is just a fun profession, it can't be relied on as long-term work, the money isn't stable either. Jacinta told her daughter to look for another man who has more serious work, such as a civil servant or businessman, so that De Leon doesn't end up being lazy, doesn't want to work and becomes a burden on the family. But Rachel still said she loved the man, they had a lot in common, especially both having failed at their marriage. Besides, Rachel also knows several of De Leon's close friends and all the stories about this man are quite positive. He is a cool, easygoing, friendly, helpful and loyal friend. He's also never been with a girl, that's the most important thing because Rachel was divorced before, because her ex-husband liked to hit her. Finally, Jacinta raised her hand and left all the decisions to her child. The wedding was held in February 2019, after dating for 9 months, when Rachel was 31 and her husband was 29, so De Leon was 2 years younger. If we know Mrs. Jacinta, her mother, Rachel, is already a widow and also works in a government office, in the field of financial supervision in the Fortaleza region. Her hobbies are gymnastics, running. She often takes part in marathons and is active in various other sporting events. She was the one who told her daughter to stay together, even though she was married, so that the house would remain busy, even though she later became cynical and indifferent to De Leon, who was considered a poor man who was just hanging around. Even though he never asked for money, he also provided maintenance to Rachel, even though his wife had her own income. But recently it seemed like De Leon understood why his mother-in-law was acting like that. According to information from one of his friends, it turns out that Mrs. Jacinta likes to use the services of male entertainers, and some of those she has paid also know De Leon. Maybe this is what makes her afraid that his son-in-law will find out, so he tells Rachel and ends up exposing her naughty hobby. However, De Leon is not the type who likes to expose people's bad things and is already an adult. He also won't spread things like that to other people. No human being is without sin. He doesn't like interfering in other people's affairs, even if his mother-in-laws let her do it. Respectively, in July 2019, when he got a female tourist guide from Japan, several days. De Leon did not return to his house, because his guest had rented her for 3 full days. He had asked permission from his wife and Rachel didn't mind. During the day he accompanies the tourist around at night. He accompanies the tourist on the bed. At that time they happened to be staying at the Cracovac's hotel, and while they were in the lobby smoking, De Leon met a friend named Fabio Bandera, who also worked as a tour guide as well as a hired man, and he was 26 at that time. He admitted that he had just served an aunt from room 514. The two of them chatted for a while until a woman appeared in the lobby, and Fabio immediately pointed out to De Leon that it was the aunt I had satisfied. He paid quite a lot. De Leon turned his head and was quite surprised when he saw that his mother-in-law was the person Fabio had appointed. A moment later, Jacinta was stunned when she met De Leon's eyes, but her daughter-in-law just smiled and looked away. He said goodbye and immediately entered the elevator to go to his Japanese guest room. It seems that since then, her father-in-law has started to lose her bitchy face towards De Leon when she passes him at home. She likes to smile and never makes a sound when his son-in-law doesn't have any guests to accompany him. Rachel was also initially surprised by her mother's attitude, which was starting to be sweet towards her husband, but she thought that yes, she really had to accept it. How long will she continue to be mean? Sooner or later she will definitely like it and know that De Leon is a good person. In fact, then De Leon met Fabio again, but the young man said, "Did you know that the aunt I served yesterday at Krakowicz was actually your mother-in-law?" "Yes, she told me the story herself." De Leon was quite surprised why her mother-in-law even confessed her identity to Fabio, but yes, that's possible. Jacinta was afraid that De Leon would tell Fabio who she was. So she confessed first, even though De Leon had no intention of revealing Jacinta's identity to Fabio. Just be professional. A few days later, Fabio often stopped by Jacinta's house and chatted with De Leon, drank, played cards and watched films together. On weekends, while her daughter, Rachel, spent more time in his clothing boutique, but was quite happy to see the chemistry between her mother and her husband. De Leon's friend Fabio. Until Friday evening, the 9th of August, 2019, Rachel came home and found her mother in her room with De Leon. Both of them were shocked but reasoned that they were just chatting. Her husband's body had a fever, so she tried to get it checked. She was afraid of why. Rachel believed it because at that time De Leon was sleeping on the bed, while Jacinta was sitting in a chair beside the bed. Then her mother came out. She checked her husband's forehead and it did feel a little hot. She was given medicine, but Dion refused because he was allergic if he took medicine carelessly. "Just rest for a while and get better," he said. Approaching 2 a.m. when she woke up to pee, Rachel was shocked to find out that her husband wasn't there. She got out of bed and checked the bathroom. In the bathroom, but it was empty. Straight into the empty kitchen too, and he started to feel uneasy, so he went to the front room to check whether maybe De Leon was in his mother's room. Like most houses in Brazil where the rooms rarely have locks, she pushed open the door, and saw a heartbreaking sight. The husband and her mother were making love until Rachel became furious, screaming and cursing at both of them. Her mother immediately chased her and apologized, followed by De Leon. Rachel slapped Jacinta, then took a machete from the kitchen and threw it at her mother. De Leon tried to intervene, but he was hit in the neck, then looked down in pain. Jacinta tried to grab the object, then pushed her daughter. Instead she then took a kitchen knife and attacked Rachel in the chest. Red liquid went everywhere and immediately Jacinta called an ambulance. 10 minutes later the doctor came and took her to Monte Clinicum Hospital. Unfortunately, her life could not be saved. Rachel breathed her last 14 hours later. In fact, the authorities and doctors found many irregularities in the case. Jacinta testified to the police that she didn't intentionally hurt her daughter. She was trying to defend herself because Rachel had already carried a machete, and even initially attacked De Leon. However, the officers then showed the results of the autopsy, which stated that the injuries received by Rachel were not just a form of self-defense, some were intentional, and were from close range with full intention, not accidental injuries. Jacinta still said she only got a little knife, to stop her daughter from getting angry. The police were angry and thought the woman had lied. There was even something strange about De Leon's statement. He actually had injuries because he was attacked by his wife and then ran to his own room to get a bandage to cover the wound, claiming he didn't know what happened until his mother-in-law's called ambulance, and Rachel was seen lying on the kitchen floor. The man swore he didn't see what happened. While he was in the room, as far as he knew, his wife was still angry in the kitchen. From the results of the subsequent investigation, it was even discovered that there were many bruises on Rachel's body. It was possible that Jacinta had beaten her first, or De Leon had done it before that night, or perhaps the two of them had conspired to hurt Rachel and fabricated the chronology of the night of the incident. But based on the information that Rachel said at the hospital, right before her death, her mother was the perpetrator. She found them making out and took a machete because she wanted to attack Jacinta. From Rachel's statement, it is also known that her mother often brought male entertainers to her house, and in the past, Rachel's ex-husband was also caught making out with her mother. That's why that night she was furious and intended to finish off Jacinta. It turned out that her mother's strength was much greater than she was. She was hit back, kicked and hit with knives when De Leon ran to the room to treat his wounds. Via the lawyer Tocido Cavalfanti, of course this statement was denied by Jacinta. Rachel lied without knowing what the purpose was. She only hurt him a little without any real evil intention. She only hurt him once. She didn't know where the other wound came from. But the police still thought that his mother was not honest, and that there was already a feeling of resentment between them, while on the other hand, De Leon admitted that his relationship with his mother-in-law had only happened once. He said Jacinta invited him and would pay. Fabio was also bored and De Leon agreed to this. He didn't think about the payment but thought that his in-laws would be rejected. He was afraid of being judged like before, even though the prosecutor and judge were angry. Why did he go into the room that night and was busy looking for bandages? His wife and in-laws were fighting, even though they were both carrying sharp tools. Arriving at his decision as of Wednesday the 22nd of January, 2020, the judge at the Fortaleza Regional High Court stated that Jacinta Edenia was guilty of intentionally attacking her daughter until she breathed her last breath. Second-degree charge of self-defense plus a charge of gross misconduct with his son-in-law and several other men. The 56-year-old woman was sentenced to 22 years in prison, and can be released on bail after serving at least 17 years in prison. Meanwhile, De Leon was charged with disgraceful conduct and criminal conspiracy and was sentenced to 11 months in prison. Jacinta appealed but failed. She still denies guilt to this day. Accidentally threw a knife because she was afraid of being attacked by his daughter. At that time he wasn't sad because Rachel had left, she was sad because she was afraid of going to prison. What do you think? Do you believe what De Leon says, who always blames his mother-in-laws for the illicit relationship? He admits he was just forced. If you comment below, if you like this video, don't forget to click the like and share buttons. For those who are stopping by for the first time or have stopped by often but haven't subscribed, don't forget to click the subscribe button first and also turn on the notification so that next time, for example, I upload a video, then you will be the first to know. And don't forget to watch all my other videos. Remember, keep watching your fingers and tongue so you don't hurt other people's hearts, and keep taking care of your health. Thank you.